Hello, everybody, and welcome. Claire, how are you?
Hi, really good. How are you?
Yeah, really good. Really excited to have you on. I was just
Me
saying
too.
before to you off camera that I've been stalking you. Sorry about that.
Oh, look, I mean, so long as you're not like a middle-aged man stalking me down the street at 5
Oh,
a.m. when I'm walking to yoga, then
yeah,
it's
no,
totally fine.
nah, you're good. You're good. Definitely not a male. Although I do have stories about that, but let's not go into that. So beautiful listeners and watchers and audience people. This is a lovely Claire Devine, and she's over on Instagram under the new Divine. And I just knew it was in our stars to chat. And so I approached the beautiful Claire and asked, would you like to come onto my YouTube channel so that I can quiz you for the benefit of all my readers and listeners and, people who like to tune in and learn about the arts. So Claire, tell us a little bit about you and your art. It's a really open question. Start anywhere you like. You start with, I don't know.
Well, so I'm a wife and a mum of three boys, and I have a big wild wolf called Nanette, and we live pretty close to the sea, and just down the road from us we have my beautiful beachside studio, where we've been nearly a year now. It'll be a year next week. And so from the seaside, I paint full time. It's the complete job in my family. My husband, we joke, he's sort of semi-retired, semi helps me in the business. And our three boys have a lot of health stuff going on. My younger two are partially blind, and my eldest has a complex sort of, epilepsy, ADHD, like a lot of really big stuff that we're just starting to unpack. So I guess painting full time means that I can be really flexible to support them. And that's the real privilege and highlight of it for me. And then because I've got this very boy-filled household, I think that when I get to paint, I get to add a heap of feminine stuff. And my painting, I think, is always about celebrating the joy in our life and looking for that joy and that highlight, that silver lining, I suppose, all of the time. And that's what I try to express in my art, because I think especially in the last couple of years, a lot of people have had really, really hard times. It's not just us. And so, but I mean, that's how I process that, is by always, still choosing joy, still choosing to see that, there's going to be good coming from everything. So yeah, I paint big, bright, colorful stuff. And lots of flowers at the moment. I don't know why. I don't know how that's happened.
It's funny, isn't it? How you just like sometimes things just sort of flow out of you, and you're just like, well, that's the direction we're going at the moment, because that's what I need to paint. It's almost, coming from another place, I often think.
Yeah.
And you're by the seaside, and you're Queensland, right? Are you?
Yeah.
How close are you to Brisbane, or are you in Brisbane?
We're officially in Brisbane. We're about 20 minutes from the city centre, so we're pretty lucky. Okay,
super cool. And your artworks are just divine. Am I allowed to say that? I was not actually. No, it actually, funnily enough, it wasn't. But you know how your last name is Devine, right? D-E.
D-E.
Yeah. So many people spell divine with the E. Have you noticed that? Not your name, when they're just writing the word divine.
But they shouldn't, because divine as in holy, as in God, is D-I.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really, yeah.
Look, it's fine, because every time someone makes that typo, I think of you. So it's great. It's all good. And your beautiful art.
That's great. Just slipping into the everyday vernacular.
Yeah, that's what you're doing. That was on purpose, wasn't it? That's what it is. You're so influential. You're changing the English language, Claire. I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Now, in my research, my knowledge and my research, I've balanced these things out. I love how on your Instagram page and also on your website, you talk about joy and bringing smiles to people's faces and wild Australian landscape and vibrancy and all of these beautiful words, which I'm like, that's what it's all about. Like I'm on the same page as you in that regard, for sure.
Yeah, totally.
And I just think you can go all sorts of directions with your art, right? But to be able to bring joy to someone else through your art, that's just like the most rewarding career ever. Do you ever reflect on that?
It's tricky, you know, because I was previously a high school teacher, and I always wanted to be a high school teacher. So I'm living the dream now, but it's a different grown-up dream. It wasn't my childhood dream. I grew up in a family of artists, very successful artists, and so I think that idea of artists, you know, being an artist being a real job, that was just a given for me. I didn't, you know, but so I wanted to be a high school teacher. I got to do that. I found that extremely meaningful and purposeful, and you know, really nourished my soul in lots of ways. This, you know, I also think that in a different way, I think that, you know, with art, people are looking for connection. They're looking for shared stories and shared language. And so I'm delighted that people can see part of themselves or part of their story in my art. And, you know, art can tell all sorts of stories. It can tell tragic stories. It can tell, but, you know, I'm not trying to do that. I'm just trying to do the happy, you know, joyful, like, let's just not dwell on all the bad and, you know, grudgy stuff of the world. There are plenty of artists that do that really well, and there's a really, you know, important place for them. But yeah, it's a huge privilege to, you know, anytime anyone buys your art and puts it in their home, like,
compliment every time.
That never gets old, right? Like, that we've had that, like, something that's been in my head now makes sense in your head, even though we don't know each other. That's amazing.
Yeah, definitely. And then that, relating to that as well, your art sales, I love also that you talk about creating art. You don't use this terminology, this is my interpretation, but art for real people, to go in real homes, and you make it accessible and, you know, ready to hang and easy to frame and all of those things. Like, it's so obvious that you're thinking about real people, just like you, right? And just like me, and just like the everyday sort of a person. I love that about what you do.
I mean, I feel like a lot of people feel locked out of the art world. You know, they weren't good at art in high school, or they only got a B, or they didn't get to take art because their parents said to them, oh, you're going to be an accountant. You know, and so they feel like art just isn't for them. And so all these barriers to sale, to use the commercial jargon, you know, business speak, all these barriers to sale about, well, how will I hang it? How will I frame it? How will I, well, I do like that, but is it any good? So I think as artists, it is our job to educate people to say, actually, art is for you. If you like it, then it's good. You know, there's no like price point at which art becomes good, or there's no level of experience at which point, or level of training, or level of, you know, do you like it? Well, then it's good. And, you know, like, we can have those conversations. We can empower people to then enjoy art. Isn't that the whole point?
That is the whole point. And I think for artists as well, as you say, you know, I'm always thinking about the artist side. So as you're saying, if you like it, then it's good. It's the same for artists who are creating. I know, you know, I've got a lot of artists in my art membership that are nervous to sell. They're like, oh, I'm not good enough yet. But it's like, well, I think you are. Like, I can see that your art is absolutely gorgeous and I would buy it. But the question is, if you think it's beautiful, then just put it out into the world, you know?
Yeah. But do you think that that's because, like, they're not painting exactly what they think their version of perfection is yet, and therefore it's not, like, the stuff that I paint for me is so very different to the stuff that I paint commercially. And I wonder if that's where a lot of people get stuck, you know? People get stuck in the, oh, well, but this isn't necessarily what I would choose to put in my house. But someone who's never seen your art and who's just looking at it, not knowing the journey and the struggles that are going through in your head, is probably going, oh, that's great.
Claire, my gosh, there's so much here. So I'm
sorry.
And I've got a bit of like I've got quite a forgetful brain. So I'm like, oh, I have to ask that. Oh, I have to ask all that. Anyway.
Oh, please.
That's okay. So I was going to say, a few things just came up. I was just thinking the thought or the question of deciding what sort of artist am I going to be, in terms of just originals in fine art galleries, prints, affordable prints, expensive prints, whatever it is. And then the other one, see, look at my brain. Can you see it in action? It's on pause. No, it's actually on pause right this second. I'm like, what was the other question? You were talking about the art in your home versus the art you make. And so that situation where your client or customer or, dream buyer, whatever it is not you. Like, it's not someone like you. And how do you deal with that? Like, oh my goodness. Okay, which of those questions do you want to start with first?
I've already forgotten the first one.
Okay, so how do you decide?
How do you decide what sort of artist you want to be?
Yeah.
Don't decide. Don't decide. Yeah. Be a new person every day. Be whoever you want to be on the day. Okay, who says you have to decide? I've been like 12 different people in the last 4 years artistically as I've grown and changed and adapted but that's been very intentional. I've met the market where it is, and I think that that's where we've been really, really successful. So when we started out, I wanted to do really good quality but very affordable prints. So I made my profit margin very small in order to get maximum reach. And then once I had traction and I had tested the market a little bit in terms of which prints were selling really well, then I knew what sort of direction I had to go in, because I knew that I wanted to make this a successful commercial venture. And therefore my art has grown in a certain direction, I guess, but I'm still looking at that and reviewing that all the time. And as trends change and different colors become popular, then that changes again. And then sometimes even if something sells really well, I go, oh, stuff it, I'm really bored with that, and I can't do one more painting like that.
I'm thinking about like Coldplay having to do a concert and sing Yellow again. It's like whatever that's whatever the actual title of that song is.
So it's like, don't decide who you're going to. No, don't do that, because then you're stuck, and you can't be stuck as an artist. You've got to be able to just
be free, but it's
do the next thing.
Yeah, just such a funny thing, isn't it? So controversial. Okay, you ready?
Okay.
Somebody I know, I'm just wondering if I can drop their name or not. Somebody I know is a trained artist years ago. And now just always talks to me about art and talks to me about the difference between a real artist. Oh, wait for this. Sorry, this is hot, like difficult topic. A real artist and a commercial artist.
Oh, okay.
And the line I get, Claire, as well is because I studied design at the College of Fine Arts years ago. I get the line from this person saying, "I'm really good at design." All the time. You're really good at design, Roz.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
Okay.
Interesting to think about.
My answer is this, because I am a real musician. I am a trained
yes, we should talk. I know that. I made notes.
That was my first degry. So in fact, it was my first 2 degrees and half of my third. So I know a thing or two about music. I've worked as a professional musician. I've recorded. I've played in some pretty cool outfits. I've taught music. I've been at the really tippy top of that game. And at the time, I remember my teacher saying to me something very similar, that, there's real music and then there's like what you hear on the radio. But here's the thing. If it's not accessible, and you can't reach the real music because you don't have that understanding or that background, or your grandparents never listened to classical radio in the house 24/7 like mine did, or and that's just so far removed, then you can't feel anything when you listen to it and you go, oh, classical music's boring, whatever, because it's just not part of your whatever. But you can really relate to the music on the radio. Well, then that music is important, pertinent, and real music, because it's functioning as art, which is to make us feel something and to feel connected. So congratulations to my old teacher. Sorry. He had lots of great ideas, but I thought that one was absolutely atrocious. And for me, what has been one of my very best, most amazing musical experiences, and I've had lots of amazing musical experiences as a performer and as a listener to very highbrow music. One of the best experiences I've ever had was just a couple of months ago in Ireland, with my husband in a pub, listening to these not trained musicians having a blast, playing some of the best Celtic music I'm sure the world has ever heard, because it was brilliant. They weren't trained, they were self-taught, or they'd learned along with, their dads or whatever at home. And they were doing this amazing thing, and everyone in that pub was feeling something. And it was beautiful and it was magical. So the idea to me that you have to be trained a certain way, like maybe that talks to some people, but it doesn't talk to everyone. And that's okay, because no art, is designed to speak to everyone.
I'm not sure it's necessarily about the training. I think it's around the commercial side of things. So it's around whether you only create original artworks that go to fine art galleries.
Right.
And you're going for like 10K or more per piece.
Right.
Or whether you make art to sell to real people. Isn't that funny? It's just such a funny world, because isn't the idea for an artist, because I would put myself in the commercial zone. My eyes. If you've ever watched,
as opposed to mine that's like Twitch, so much to say.
Oh, no. So much to say. Yeah, so I would say I'm in the same commercial art thing. So I'm not batting for another team here, but it's that fine art versus the commercial art concept. But where I was going with that, sorry, before my eye started rudely twitching and interrupting my train of thought, was isn't the idea to make a career out of your art? And then to make a career out of your art means you need to make an income out of your art, which means you need to sell your art, which means that there has to be a commercial aspect. And I don't know, like how long would you hold on to those? How long would somebody, a fine art artist, like upper end, like those sorts, hang on to their fine art dream before they got that first 10K? Like, like you'd have to have another job for a long time, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even I'm very happily a commercial artist because it feeds a family of 5 and it pays the mortgage, and it there's nothing wrong with selling art.
No,
there's nothing wrong with selling art and making good money. For me, there's something inherently wrong with this idea that artists should be starving and should be, at the bottom of the
Maybe that is connected to this fine art, real art concept. Like it has to be basically overpriced because it needs to make sure that you are starving. Otherwise, you're not an artist.
Yeah, otherwise you're not. Like, are we in the 17th century?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure we're not.
Just check. My phone says 2022. So.
Should I remind this person? Just like give them a little bit of a kick in the shin. I was going to say like a little elbow nudge, but then I changed it to a kick in the shin.
I feel like, do you know what? If you're looking for that kind of money for your art, then you're not producing a lot of art, because a lot of your, materials and stuff is tied up in the art that you've got stored in your house or whatever, or stored at the gallery. You've got a very narrow pool of buyers who are prepared to outlay that money on art. And then a narrower pool still who have the money, are prepared to lay it out on art at any given moment and want to lay it out on yours and have seen yours and know that you exist. I mean, that to me feels exceptionally fraught, and it works for some people, but that's like saying it works for Coldplay to be Coldplay, but most singers aren't Coldplay. Most bands don't ever get to be Coldplay.
Is he trained, by the way? Should we judge him? Is he? No, I'm just joking. So you were a high school teacher. Did you teach music then?
Yes, I did.
Oh, yes, very good. Oh, beautiful.
And I loved it. Oh. And I taught religious education as well, and I really loved that too. And it's really, really special. So
I love that. Gorgeous. Do you miss it?
Yes, I do, every day.
Oh,
that's
how long?
unpopular opinion. I haven't been teaching now for since April of 2022. 2020, sorry. So 2 years,
okay.
2.5 years. Yeah.
Okay. And you're
we've
not
been doing
going
this
back?
full time. No, we just can't. The boys with all of their therapy needs, with all of the instability there. My husband as well, I think I missed this part out. He had a major seizure 3 years ago that, as well as a number of other health things that has impacted his memory. And whilst most days he's really, really great, some days he's not, and we can't predict that. And so I just don't see how I could return to a structured routine that requires me at certain times anytime in the next, 15 years. I just don't.
Do you have any family around?
Yes, we do. We've got a huge amount of help from family, which is great. But
I'm not pushing you into teaching.
Huge...
I was just hoping you had help.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, it's just the reality of where we are. And don't get me wrong, I love doing this. I do, but I share that because I think that we all feel some sense of push and pull in our lives, and it's okay to love what you're doing and also wish that things had been different, or that you came to this for a different reason, or that in whatever you're doing in life, art or other. You're allowed to have mixed emotions.
Because one of the notes I made here, was that you had these health challenges in your family and these events, and were the catalyst for you taking your art full time. And it just made me think of some of our listeners as well who might have similar experiences, maybe not exactly the same, but the idea of an event or something being the thing that pushes them into going full-time or into getting another job which is only part-time or whatever it is, to allow more art in their lives. How was that transition into full-time art?
Well, it was wonderful for us, but so I'd been working away at the business for 2 years as a part-time fun thing, and I think that because it was sort of the start of COVID and the lockdowns, people were looking for art for their walls. And then I shared, because I hadn't previously been able to share much about our family life on social media, because I was a teacher and I was extremely conservative about, what if a student saw this, or a parent or whatever. So when I took that unpaid leave, I was able to then share a lot more about what we'd been going through, which was a lot at the time. One son being diagnosed with albinism and partially blind. My husband had cancer, and his memory at the time was still terrible from the seizure, and I was like, our family was just imploding. And so people, really related to that story, I think, but also they were sitting at home looking at bare walls going, oh, actually, I would like some art. And actually, people buy stories. They don't buy things, they buy stories. And
they support people
and they support people. And so, we were just, unintentionally in this perfect sweet spot, I suppose, that it just literally took off overnight. But it didn't, because I'd been working at it for 2 years, and just a lot of people were perfectly primed to hit go at that particular moment and choose my art, I suppose. I'm always very wary, like overnight success is never really overnight success. There's always more to it,
Yes.
But the transition, I suppose, for us was quite easy. And then, sort of 18 months later, we were buying a studio because we'd, outgrown the dining room in my house.
I did see on your website, it says we started out in the room formerly known as the dining room. I really like that. I was like, that's too funny.
Well, we couldn't use it anymore. Like the dining table was covered in paint.
I think what I love about your approach, though, is that you really thought about your market. So, and you tested things out. You were very, I guess, businessy, but not like business tends to be like sound bad, right? I don't mean in a bad way, but you were businessy in that way. Just knowing you had the skill set, knowing that you could create beautiful art. But what art do people want to buy? Actually, I've got the most hilarious situation over here. So I'm a big Pink fan. So Pink, everyone, pink. And Recently, there you go. Me too. This dusty pink. And then recently I painted an artwork that is actually slightly, it's a green, like it's a green blue or blue green. But on camera, like depending on your device, it looks a bit bluish. And there's a lot of interest in so I'm like, oh, do I have to all of a sudden just overnight become a blue nut? like I can't sell my soul, people. But yeah, it's interesting, the whole finding a balance between the art you like to make, the art that you not necessarily have on your walls, but that you enjoy the process of, and the aesthetic. You do have to like the aesthetic, but then trying to find that point where it meets the market, where people want it on their own walls too. How did you go about that testing sort of period? Because I think that would be really interesting to people who are watching.
So we started with 4 prints. So 3 were very pink dominant. I, like you, love pink. And floral, and 1 was very blue dominant, with sort of earthy tones like a landscape. And so we just looked at the sales of those across 4 months at markets and online. And then the blue one outshone the others. Blue and home decor. Aqua, turquoise. People compare it in more easily, whereas I think pink, women, okay, I'm generalizing here, okay, but from my experience with customers, the wife comes in and she says, oh no, my husband wouldn't let me have that much pink, or my husband wouldn't like that much pink. But quite often the husband actually does like the pink. He's just not going to say so. Okay, just as an aside.
Pink used to be the boys' colour.
Yeah.
This, I'm sure. A long time a year. Okay.
And but a lot of men will, when the husband and wife are standing there together, a lot of husbands will say, oh no, it's okay. Oh no, that's quite, like they don't want to be too committal, but they're like, oh, it's fine. Oh, yeah, get that one. Yeah. So, so we just, but we looked at not my husband. My husband doesn't like anything I paint. So on the odd occasion that he says, oh, I know what that one is. I know what that's supposed to be. That's supposed to be flowers or something. Then I'm like, quick, sell it for $1 million. He likes it.
That's a whole other topic, isn't it? Should we listen to our spouse's opinions or not?
No, because they're not your target audience. They're not your target audience. So we tested those 4 prints, and then I painted a few more things, and so I tried to not replicate the same pieces again, but test which elements, like was it the textures, was it the looseness, of the brush strokes, was it the combination of mixed media, paint pens and acrylics and a little bit of watercolor in the background. So I tried to sort of then in the next round of prints look at which of those combinations were the ones, like was it just color or was it also other elements?
Brushwork or the media that you chose. So this is what they call, so we can talk Facebook ads as well. So I run Facebook ads for my teaching side of things rather than my art, and they do the A/B testing, right? So really that's what you did, was a bit of A/B testing. So
and I still do it. That's just part of my process now all the time. Whenever I come up with a new idea, and I make notes about all this stuff, I don't think there's anything wrong with wanting to do well business wise. And in fact, I would argue that you to be a successful artist, a lot of people are struggling with those business skills, because ultimately painting, I mean, my 5-year-old can paint. Can he market his paintings? No.
The painting part almost is the easy part, because that's the part that comes more naturally to creative beings. Sorry. That makes sense.
Then you have to learn the business skill set, because ultimately that's going to make your painting viable or not. And no one wants to be, well, maybe some people want to be a starving artist, but it's not for me. So
so what did you think some of the key skills are in terms of business that you think people should develop, and then how did you develop those skills?
Well, I think a lot of those skills, to be fair, were already part of, my family dynamic and what I grew up seeing happen. I think that, tech skills can't be underrated, and not just in terms of, can you work Facebook and Instagram, but also can you take a good picture of your art that's color correct and that's, or can you be brave enough to stand in a picture with your art, because people love that. And you don't have to look like a model. They're not expecting a model. They're expecting the artist.
And you've got to be authentic across the board, you know?
Yeah. But so not just those skills, I suppose, and maybe being able to write a little bit about your art, but also being savvy enough to move with the times. Like when Reels came out on Instagram, so many people were like, what more do you want from me? I'm already taking the photos and posting and everyone had a big whinge about it. And it's like, oh, well, I'm not the boss of Instagram. Like, I'm just going to have to do the thing.
Unpopular opinion, and we might be upsetting a few people, but I totally agree. I'm like, guys, we're not going to change this. We don't own Insta. It's their platform. We are invited to be here for free to market our art and whatever we're doing.
Yeah.
Roll with it. If you don't want to roll with it, sorry. See ya. Or stay as you were and do your posts. And that's how you'll roll, and that's fine,
Yeah. So you have to do that stuff. And then, what I think is really important for artists is financial literacy. You have to understand, what is it costing you to make your art? Like, you must. The best investment that you can make is QuickBooks or another like little app like that on your phone, because then you can, I didn't mean to turn my torch on. You can take snapshots of receipts. It pre-fills the amount for you, and then it just keeps a balance sheet for you with profit and loss. I mean, how easy is that? But you must understand how much is going to go to tax. How much is going to go to GST? If you're GST registered over $70,000, you've got to be, and I would argue you need to be registered before that, right? Because you need to be claiming GST even if you're making a loss that quarter, because then you can get some money back as you move towards that goal. That's not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. Don't quote me. Always very worried about that. But you do, like, that's a basic, because otherwise, you sell a print for, today I sold at lunch while I was sitting with my great aunt, right? The phone's going beep, beep, sales, right? So I sold $500 in prints on my lunch break, which sounds nice, but that's not $500 in my pocket.
No.
Because I've had the expense of capturing the print, the expense of printing it. I've had the expense of the fuel to go and get the thing. I've got to leave out tax. I've got to leave out the GST for BAS. Like, all up then, my taking is much smaller than that 500, what actually hits my bank account. So I don't now have $500 more over my lunch break to spend in the afternoon, and I think that's wouldn't that be nice?
And then, look, the beauty of this, because I'm thinking of people who are listening, potentially feeling overwhelmed by all the things that they need to learn. But the beauty of this is that you learn as you go.
Yes.
Because it's not like you're all of a sudden selling $500 every day at lunchtime. You know what I mean?
That's
and
true.
have to all of a sudden deal with all of that. You learn slowly as you go. So even for me, like even right now, I'm only just putting that profit first. Have you heard of Profit First?
Yes, love Profit First. Read it, enjoy that. Yeah.
It's a really good one. Yeah. So I'm only just actually putting it into action. You learn things as you go and as you need to. But you've had some awesome tips tonight in terms of, tonight. Am I allowed to say tonight? Is that weird? It's like placing this in time.
At this time.
during this interview. Anyway. Yeah. So a few things. So you're saying tech, financial literacy. Were they the two main ones you said?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, rolling with it, being able to roll with it as well. And the testing, I reckon that's a really good one.
Yeah.
So with your testing, did you just let's just get super practical. Did you just pop it up on Instagram? How did you do your testing? Did you do Facebook ads? Because I wanted to ask you about that topic as well, because I know you do your Facebook ads.
Yeah. we do run Facebook ads. We haven't done a whole lot of, I suppose we do test through Facebook ads as well in a way. But I already know which pieces are going to be really popular, and I put those ones on Facebook ads. So they tend to do quite well. I think it starts earlier. Yes, definitely with Instagram. So I've got a very complex little algorithm that is entirely my own that I use to help judge how many prints I'm going to sell of a print. But that's sort of 4 years in the making that allows me to make those conclusions or do that forecasting quite well now. But definitely just, yes, looking at what works on Instagram, what people respond to, and on Facebook as well. Pinterest, not so much, because Pinterest is like a much longer game. You can't judge on day one whether something's flying really well. But mainly as well, I did a lot of markets,
that's
finders keepers, which really allowed me to see what people were saying when they picked up the print and went, I really like that. Oh no, well, that girl down the road, you can get 2 for $50 at that other girl down the road, and she had something like a little bit like this, but not like this, but but 2 for $50 down there, and this one is 150 for one. And to hear all of that feedback too, or to hear people go, oh yes, but where would you put it? Oh, but how would you frame it? Oh no, sure. Oh, but you'd have to buy a frame as well. Oh,
and you can hear all those, what you call buyers hurdles, buyers something. So that, that would be a hidden benefit of running a market stall, because market stalls are not cheap, especially if you want to do them, in inverted commas, properly. But that's one of the hidden things that you're buying, actually. So you're buying exposure, but you're also buying, what's it called?
Intelligence.
Market research. Yeah. Market intel.
Yeah, I would say to any artist who's doing a market, art is not a market product. It's not. People don't go to a market to spend hundreds of dollars on a piece of art. They go to buy earrings, bags, fashion, maybe, like consumable, smaller stuff that they can have lots of. Very few people are going to go to a market, because they've also got the problem of, well, how do they get it home safely? And, so anytime you do a market as an artist, in my opinion, you should be putting it under your advertising budget, or putting it under your market research budget, or both. But do not expect to make a single sale. And then if you do make sales, then that's great. But you're there to do the learning and the analysing and the listening and the talking to people, the educating about your art, but also just about appreciating art in general. You're not, so many artists say to me, oh, but is it worth it? Is it worth it to go to a market? And I'm like, well, I'm always profitable, but the worth it for me. Oh no,
it's all right. It's all right. Carry on.
Are we back?
Yeah, you're just roboting. That's fine.
Okay. The worth it for me is about the money. Oh, my internet connection's unstable.
If you're watching this and if we're going all robot-y, can you type robot down below? Give us a like to show that you accept us, even with robot voices.
Oh, no.
Do you like my YouTube engagement strategy?
I know. I totally get it. What's going on?
All right. I'm going to use this time, listeners, watchers, audience. Yeah, we're back.
Yay.
Yay. What were we talking about? I don't know.
Don't call markets. Don't go to a market hoping to be profitable.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because I could talk with you, I think, forever. We should have a part 2. But I'm just thinking a lot of creatives do try something. They go, I tried that, it didn't work.
The end.
There's a lot of that in our industry. A lot.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting topic to reflect upon. Where does that come from? I think it's long game related.
Yes. Yeah. But also, there is an immediate game, like we all have needs, like, we need to feel fulfilled. We need to feel like we're going on the right track. We need to feel like we might be able to pay the bills this month, all of that stuff. So sometimes it's hard to play a long game when you've got those more pressing immediate deadlines and then that stifles creativity because, when you're worried, you can't operate in a creative space. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Okay. No.
I'm having flashbacks actually to the start. I remember that because things are a bit different for me now, but yes. Oh my goodness. Yes. I remember that 100%. So tips for that. Tell me if you agree, because I would say if you're in that situation, you need a day job as well. That's where I would go with that. You need a day job. Sorry.
Yep. Yeah.
Sorry, people.
Yep.
Because I don't know how else you do it. Because how do you paint happy, beautiful artworks with positive energy in them? Like, I believe in that whole energy side of things too. Do you do that whole? Do you believe in that? Like if you painted an artwork in an angry, frustrated, I hate my art sort of a way, do you think it would sell?
Okay. No, I don't know, but I do know this. And that is that when I paint and listen to
paint, rest, repeat. No, just joking.
No, listen to certain very popular at the moment singers whose name rhymes with Ned Fearon. When I paint and listen to that, it doesn't sell.
Are you kidding me? I thought you were going to go the other way because it's music that people listen to and therefore
but when I listen to it,
those
whatever that does to my painting is not.
Do you need? Oh, that's hilarious.
It's really interesting.
Okay, well, could you please ban that? Because
I've noticed it so many times.
Oh, but now it's definitely going to happen because you know about it. Just don't listen to him anymore. Now, it needs to be said that this is not across the board, everybody. We are not encouraging a banning of any artists because all artists need support.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can just listen to him in the car instead.
Now, I also read something funny, and maybe we should close on this note because I'm hilarious.
You are hilarious.
That you like dad jokes.
Yes.
Okay, I've got a good one for you.
Okay,
do you have a good one? Do you want to come back with a good one?
I do have a good one.
All right, ready? My one.
Okay.
Man walks into a library and says, "Oh, hello, can I please have some fish and chips?" And the lady behind the counter says, "Sorry, sir, this is a library." And he said, oh, sorry. Can I have some fish and chips? Do you like it?
Oh, it's great.
I told my kids this morning. They loved it. Anyway.
That's a really good one. My favorite dad joke of all time was, there was a rustle in the bushes. Russell, get out of the bushes. Because I feel like I have that conversation with my children all the time. What are you doing there? What is it? Like, why is there a toy stuck to the ceiling? Why is that? Literally. I feel like it speaks a deeper truth than that.
About humankind or childhood, maybe childhood. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your best joke with us. As well as your hottest tips for new and emerging artists who want to, grow their art sales and make it their full-time thing. So I really, really appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
I so appreciate you. You're doing an amazing thing because we need more people to talk about the business of art.
I think so. And the real side of it, not just the send out this email and you'll get 20 sales. Not one of those.
You're amazing. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay. Chat to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
So we're back because I totally forgot to ask Claire about her website, etc. So can you please share with everyone your Instagram account and also your website and anything else, like if you're on Facebook, for example?
Yeah, I'm everywhere at The New Devine, spelled Devine. And the website is thenewdevine.com, and trying to think about any other important details. No.
Are you on Facebook?
Yeah, Facebook at The New Devine. You'll find me.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Woo!
Bye.
Bye.